Hello, everyone. Welcome to the 36th California Small Farm Conference. My name is Guido Lois. I'm a communications and events manager with CAF, which stands for Community Alliance with Family Farmers. And we have an amazing workshop today. I'm so happy that Maria and Lisette are here with us. And before we introduce them, I wanted to talk about some logistics with you. First of all, this workshop is being recorded, just so you know. And if you have any questions, please put them utilizing the Q&A feature at the bottom of your screen. If you don't see it, it must be under more, those three little dots to the bottom right. And if you have any comments, you can put them on the chat. But we're trying to keep those two separate so it's easier to answer your questions. Finally, I wanted to thank our sponsors for making this possible. And with that, Maria, if you want to take it away.
Yeah, thank you, Guido. Well, welcome everyone to the third day of our California Small Farm Conference and to our workshop, Creating an Online Presence for Your Farm with Instagram. Just want to thank you for attending our session today. My name is Maria Ridudo Orozco, and I'm CAF's Tech Advisor. I am delighted to be your moderator today for this session. And in a few minutes, I will present the wonderful Lisette Garcia, who is a trailblazer in our community in the San Joaquin Valley. Lisette, do you mind sharing your screen?
Okay, it's loading.
Awesome, thank you. In the next slide, we can see that today's workshop is actually the first in a three-part webinar series called Direct to Consumer Sales Stories, where three farms share their success stories using social media and e-commerce. And we go to, thank you. Today, it's the webinar with Lisette Garcia and Sweetwater Farms, but we have our next webinars on March 5 and March 12. So if you want to register, please go to caf.org/events, and then you can find the rest of the webinars. Okay. So for today, our learning objectives for the series, you can find them on the screen, and have in mind that we're going to have enough time to do Q&A at the end. So please feel free to ask any and all your questions that come up. We have a chat box and the Q&A, so just drop your questions in either one of them. Okay, so before we start, I want to tell you a little bit about CAF's programs. So CAF has multiple programs and pathways for supporting family farmers, and please feel free to reach out to us for support in any of these areas that you can see on the screen right now. This session is brought to you by our Farmer Services team, which provides several support on several different topics, including farm technology, and also thanks to the support of USDA funding. The funding for this project was made possible by the USDA Agricultural Marketing Service. Now, our team is called the Small Farm Tech Hub team, where we provide free support and resources to small-scale farmers, food hubs, and farmers market operating out of California. Support services can include anything from identifying ways to leverage technologies like e-commerce, social media, online marketing, and many more. If you want to learn more about our program, please visit caf.org/techhub. Now, before we start our workshop, let's do a quick poll. You should have a pop-up poll coming up right now. And if you don't, please write your answer in the chat box. The question is, do you grow, buy, sell, or produce local or regional agricultural products? Now, I will give you about 1 to 2 minutes to answer. And if you leave your answer in the chat box, this is also a great opportunity to learn more about who else is participating in today's session. Okay. I think, let's see the chat box. Let's see if we have some answers. Okay, I think most people have answered the poll. Thank you very much for your feedback. And now, what you've all been waiting for, I am honored to introduce today's speaker, Lizeth Garcia. Lizeth is a successful young Latina and founder, operator, and farmer of Sweet Girl Farms. Sweet Girl Farms has over 8,000 followers on Instagram and has earned Lizeth multiple awards and recognitions, including Entrepreneur of the Year from the Raleigh Chamber of Commerce in 2021. Now, Lizeth's journey is truly inspiring. She has harnessed the power of social media to not only showcase the vibrant story of Sweet Girl Farms, but also to connect with consumers, fellow farmers, and advocates everywhere. Throughout the workshop, Lizeth will share her insights, strategies, and firsthand experiences on how to leverage Instagram and elevate your farm's visibility, engage with your audience, and ultimately boost your online presence. Now, I see that the results of the poll are back. I can see 75% of you all grow local products, 19% buy local products, 58% sell local agricultural products, 33% produce agricultural products, and 11% don't do any of these activities. Thank you so much for your feedback there. Okay, so without further ado, let's just give a big, warm welcome to Lizeth Garcia, founder of Sweet Girl Farms and trailblazer of our community. Lizeth, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Maria. I appreciate that. Well, good morning, everyone. My name is Lizeth Garcia. I think I lost control of moving the slides forward. I am located, but to give you the context of where I am and what the business entails, I am located in Central Valley, California, and my family and I farm on a 20-acre plot, and that changes year to year, determining if we'll renew leases and whatnot. And for the moment, we are focusing on growing fruits, flowers, vegetables. My specialty is flowers and vegetables, while my parents take care of doing the fruit portion. So that is how basically the farm is set up to be diverse. Also, we have a farm stand on site of the farm itself, so that's where I directly sell to consumers. And all in all, the social media presence was to create that bond with the direct consumer that was coming out to the farm stand. Give me just 1 second to see if I can get access. Okay, there it is. Okay. Let's move that. I don't know what that is. So that's the context of our farm business. So it's a farm stand, and on site we have the farm as well. So our backdrop is actually a patch of flowers where visitors can see what is happening here at the farm. And initially the farm stand was intended to do direct to consumer sales. So that is why the social media presence came about. It was to make our products known and our presence known in our community to the people that were already coming out to our farm stand. We are going on 5 years this summer. So that's how long we've been running this business called Sweet Girl Farms. And in all honesty, we didn't know that social media was going to help us spread the word about our business beyond our community. The initial intention was to advertise our products, to showcase how we work our land, and the process of getting the food to the consumer was the main idea and the focus, the intention of creating social media. We first started with Facebook and then soon after with Instagram. And again, this was roughly 5 years ago. And it's been an interesting journey to grow everything. If we can move on to the next slide. It's been an interesting journey because social media has given us the presence and the voice to reach out more consumers, which is something that we didn't have an idea that it was going to do. And it's also the way that we've been able to capture a lot of opportunities, such as the one that we are doing right now. Ability access. Sorry about the technical issues. It's not letting me advance to the next slide. Okay, cool. There it is. So like Maria had mentioned about some milestones, just to highlight the opportunities that have been created through literally the word of mouth and social media. We've been featured in local TV stations, and this was all happening kind of during the pandemic. So it has been an interesting growth since then. We started in 2019, and through the pandemic, that is actually when we started to get more recognition, because it was when people were trying to consume local and avoid crowded areas. So the farm stand kind of went hand in hand with that. Along with being featured in local TV stations, there was also a PBS special done on us where PBS reached out, and it was because they saw our social media, specifically all on Instagram. Instagram has been the platform that has opened up these opportunities to honestly get found, and then people seeking out the opportunity to work with us so that they can highlight what it is to grow locally and then to source direct to the consumer all the fruits and vegetables and flowers that they can obtain from us. In addition to that, we did make it to the front cover of LA Times and also the Fresno Bee, which is something that is still astounding to me, because all of these connections that have been, well, all of the opportunities have stemmed from a connection that happened at the farm stand. So going back to what I initially said about the social media being the means to make that bond with the consumer that was already coming to our farm stand. So as a matter of fact, the LA Times article came about a conversation that I had with a customer. I had no idea she was an LA Times reporter, even though she did she introduced herself in that way in our second encounter. I didn't seek out to make a story so that we would get highlighted. It was the fact that she was actually looking out for farmers that were suffering with drought consequences, and she happened to call, and we happened to connect in that way. But again, it was all through the power of like bonding with the customer first at the farm stand, and then also following up with letting them know that we are present on social media. So if they wanted to see what we have in on a weekly basis, and also to follow how we actually farm, then they could do so. Getting into more of like how the growth has come about, and I guess like if you can call it like tiers. During the beginning phases, I noticed that this was the time to build that connection, because the people that do follow you are very interested and invested. I know the dynamics have changed, because 5 years ago, Instagram isn't the same as today's Instagram. Nonetheless, the people that I have had as followers on Instagram, I personally know them. So when they do comment or ask questions through DMs, then I know who it is, and I already have sort of a feel of what they're really looking for. So I built that strong connection with the people that did follow me, as opposed to focusing so much on the vanity metrics, such as the likes, the follows, the replays of whatever social media content that I did post. And so that was one of the things that I appreciated growing slow on, even though the Instagram isn't like a renowned content page like for farming. I know that there's a lot of farmers that have way more followers than I do, but my point with this is that the people that have followed me, and even though it's not a huge base compared to other content creators, it is a base that I know truly will support me. So I think that's what I really wanted to focus on when I stated this, is the people that do follow you, if you focus in on them and build that strong connection, what I've noticed is that they've been customers time after time again when I launch something new, when I promote something, an event that's happening at the farm stand, when I have a new crop. They are going to come in, and I think that's why I've taken the time to really grow my following very slowly. So in a way, it has been very strategic, which didn't come to me at the very beginning, because at the very beginning, this is the time that I was experimenting with all kinds of means of communication. So really find what is best for you, whether that be through photos, through written word, or through video creation. There's so many things that you can do at the very beginning stages, because that is when you have the most flexibility to be experimental, to see what you feel comfortable doing and sharing on social media. So that is one of the things that I've taken away from the very beginning of my Instagram journey, is that is when I started to find what modality of communication I was going to narrow in and focus on, determining on like what I was good at. And then again, going with the tiers, a mid-level following. Honestly, this could mean anything for each and every one of us, so it is going to be different. But for me, it was when I hit like 5,000 followers on Instagram. That is when I started to notice that I needed to double down on what was working so that it kept resonating with my following base. So that is when I started to dive into more of the science, if you will, of social media. And what do I mean by this? It's more the analytics of what a post does and how the consumer receives that. So the watch time, how long I retain the consumer for, the likes. In this sense, I was concerned, or not so much concerned, but I was more focused in on, okay, if this got likes, then it lets me know what content really resonates best with my audience and what captivates them, such as using pictures, quotes, videos, or any type of text context that I would include in photos or videos. So that is when I started to learn what resonates good with the person that's receiving that message, but also what am I good at that will kind of align in that relevant post. And again, like the analytics going into like the time of day that I post, the replays, the saves, the shares, and the comments, all of that started to become more important, and it started to make more sense. But that was once I started to gain more followers. And then lastly, the large following. So to me, this is more than I can personally handle as on a daily basis. I feel that this would be the moment that would kind of like gear me towards hiring a social media manager person, as someone designated that would probably follow me around and start recording my daily activities. And like I said, here the possibilities are endless. That would be the breaking point for me. It's going to be different for everyone. But then this also allows the distribution of content to different platforms. So then at this point, you know you're really good at something. So then you can start to distribute that in different ways through different social media platforms to propagate the message of your presence even further. So that is how I've kind of like distinguished where I'm at. Again, I know that the social media following on Instagram isn't a tremendous number of what I showcase, but nonetheless, this is something that has taken me these 5 years to learn. So I hope that you guys take something from that. And then going into like also not pigeonholing yourself into a single thing. That is why I also point out, like, you can expand the production to podcasts, a TV show, books. Literally, the possibilities are endless. And then always interacting with the comments and the shares or the messages that you receive has been very helpful for me personally, because it's also a point where you can extract value from it for the good of like your business. So what do I mean by that? Basically, if you make that connection and take the time to respond to comments or questions that are being sent out to you via Instagram, then you can extract, like, let's say asking someone, hey, do you mind if I share this? Like if it's a picture that they send, or if it's a review that they send, that they're like, oh my gosh, I love your tomatoes, they were the best. So extracting that value too, and then, you know, letting the customer know that, hey, do you mind if I share this? And more than likely they'll say yes. They are, what I've seen is people are ecstatic to be showcased. And so then it also gives the consumer a sense of community. And that's one of the things that I've learned throughout the social media experience. And of course, managing the time according to your responsibilities. A lot of the feedback that I receive in terms of like my presence on social media is, how do you have the time? So that's what I meant. Just manage the time according to your needs. This is going to revolve around you because it is your business, so you can handle it the way that it makes more sense given the responsibilities that we have as farmers. And then how do I narrow in, or how do I come up with ideas for using social media and then getting my thoughts out there? Is what I've done lately is know my content media pillars. Like, what is my content about? So what do I want to communicate? For me personally, it's what I want people to know, that what I sell and where they can buy it. That's the gist of why I'm using social media. And then after that is how I'm making that come about. So for me, I've noticed that I've been really enjoying making videos as opposed to just posting like a picture with like a text over it. I used to do that a lot. I actually used to have like a weekly ad where I would post everything that I would have on a weekly basis. Even though I still enjoy that, it's more time consuming, surprisingly, than making the videos. So that is just what I've learned I'm good at, and it takes a moderate amount of editing. But again, it's funny that I enjoy that, because with so many things going on at the farm, I kind of balance that out and designate certain times of the day to do the production, the video production, and then post afterwards. And then going back to how I come up with the ideas for social media content, I choose 3 repeating themes that I call my content pillars, and all of the videos and pictures that I post, anything that I'm talking about on Instagram, revolves around these 3 pillars. So for me, it's flower content, since I'm a flower grower, the farm stand content, so people know what I have at the farm stand, what it looks like, what they can purchase, what they can expect, if they can pay with card, cash, whatever it is, and then the farming practices. So me in the field actually showcasing the techniques, what I'm growing, how I'm growing it, anything that has to do with farming content, then that's where I put it under. And I think the other thing that has helped me in leveraging my daily life is that I'm not necessarily creating more content in terms of like having a production. I'm more just recording my life, and that is what becomes my content. So I've learned to make that an interesting, just something interesting to watch. A lot of people say they aspire to be farmers because they watch my content, that they can relate, that they're doing the same thing. And then also it just sells the products because it is a business at the end of the day. But more than anything is I've made it interesting for people to watch. And then repeating again, engaging with your videos or the content that you put out on Instagram is I try to respond to almost all the comments. There's times that I'm gonna miss a comment. Again, I'm always thankful for people sharing my content. So when people do share, I actually go in there and say, hey, thank you so much for your support and thank you for sharing. I really appreciate that. Super sweet and simple, but I acknowledge the fact that someone out there supports me, even if they haven't been to the farm stand. And then, of course, any questions that come through, I try to get to them as soon as possible. That is not always the case, but I try to get to the questions as a priority because whatever the consumer is asking, I want them to have the information. And I think that's how I've really leveraged social media, is like making the means of communication and showing what I have or how I grow stuff is the thing that I push for the most on my Instagram. So the interaction has been crucial to create a bond with what I call my OG customers. And then, of course, make your content fun and interesting so that it is of value still, but it's entertaining at the same time. It's, for me personally, it took a long time to come to that realization because I was very shy at the very beginning. I did not want to show my face on Instagram, but sooner or later I became comfortable enough and grew a little bit more just personally and as a farmer to be comfortable showing how I do things. And then in terms of equipment and editing, personally, I started with my iPhone 10 and that lasted me for nearly 4 years until I upgraded. And the only reason I upgraded was because the screen broke and there was no more room on my phone to save more pictures and videos. So instead of transferring everything, I just bought a new phone because I was lazy. And then I do a lot of live streaming through my social media platforms. So I don't just have Instagram, I have TikTok and I have Facebook and YouTube. But that's the reason I have 2 cell phones, so that I can live stream on 2 different platforms at the same time. Or if I'm streaming in a single platform, then I can go through the comments section and questions that are coming in. That just makes it easier. Is it necessary? No, it's not necessary. Like I said, I started with just a single phone and it was all beat up. What has made it interesting this past, since like mid 2023, I bought a microphone on Amazon and I also went to Walmart to get like a podcast mic. So those are options in terms of audio if you're really looking for equipment. Again, it is not necessary, but if you really want to scratch that itch and it's for, you know, your own curiosity, you could totally do it in a very affordable way. You don't have to invest a lot of money. And then holding a microphone on video just makes it really interesting. It captivates the attention. And again, that's kind of like just learning what is more trendy, if you will, on social media. And then in terms of cameras, for YouTube content and presentations, I use a point and shoot camera because those allow me to record for longer and then it saves it on a memory card. As opposed to my phone, I have to make sure that either it's in landscape or vertical. It's just too much for me to think when I am out and about in presentations or doing YouTube content. So that's the instance where I would utilize a point and shoot camera or a GoPro for convenience factor, because sometimes it's just a little too obnoxious to bust out a camera and then I get shy to record in public settings. But with all that said, again, I repeat, you don't need all that equipment. It could be as convenient as doing everything on your phone. And then more details about like editing. So for editing, I used to do it all on my iPhone when I first started. So whatever the software that was included on the phone itself, that's what I used to use when I first started editing videos. And now I do CapCut. It just feels intuitive to me. And with like the applications, I never dove into like actually purchasing the paid version. One, because I was really cheap. Two, I was just starting, so I had no idea what I was doing. I just was playing. So I did the unpaid version until finally I upgraded. I don't regret upgrading, but I would be fine if I had the unpaid version too. And the same thing goes for Canva. That is where I do a lot of like my the cover photo with like text and graphics. So that is also available as a free version. And then if you really wanted to upgrade, then, you know, there's always that option to just add a little bit more features. And then the Instagram in-app editing, a lot of things can be done on Instagram itself. So don't feel the need that you need these apps. And I'm not a big fan of it because a lot of their times there's glitches in there and I lose all my recording. But it does the job when it's a short video, like very few seconds. I try to upload like sometimes a very long videos, and then I just cut a lot, and then but it ends up glitching a lot on me. So I prefer to use CapCut instead. And then going over like what the inspiration is to get more ideas and keep that creativity flow going. I consume a lot of content in terms of like observing other editing styles, and then also what trends can be used and applied to my farming content. I don't jump on all of the trends, but whatever I do find that I can relate to farming, then I'll go ahead and do that, and something that's entertaining and of value to the consumer. So that's the way that I study, is by consuming content of other creators that have nothing to do with farming, and then kind of applying it to my situation. Again, I jump on trends that I feel comfortable doing. Sometimes I'll get a group of friends and then they'll help me. So it's always nice to have a group of people that also are not in farming, and then they also bring me a lot of ideas. And creating with other businesses in the area, so collaborating, that's helped me build a wider community. And I guess also focusing on the community where I live as well. So because I know that I have a storefront, essentially, that's what the farm stand is, and I try to collaborate with people that also have small businesses in the area so that we can make that bond, make that connection, and perhaps we already share the same customers, and then that just makes it even more fun when customers come out and they're like, oh, we know you guys. So that's how I've kind of like spearheaded that collaboration effort with individuals that have like same-minded visions. And then also getting inspired by literally just my existence of becoming a better communicator and just being a farmer. I'm 5 years into this gig, and so with that I also wanted to showcase what it's like to be a farmer and become a farmer, aspire to be one. So just taking ideas that I myself have, because this is still a new venture for me, and that coincidentally brings in more business, just people that are curious to see what I have going on here in person. So yeah, Maria, we'll hand it back to you.
Thank you, Lizette. I'm not sure if you guys can see me, but thank you for your presentation. It has been so great to hear from your own experience, and I actually want to touch a little bit more on that before we start the Q&A. And in the meantime, please, everyone in the audience, drop your questions in the chat and in the Q&A box so Lizette can answer them in a minute. I just want to hear more about your journey. I know it's something that you haven't shared too much about, how you started. How do you actually started Small Girl Farms? Like, where do you come from? What was your background with farming, and how did it all started?
Yeah, I think that's one of the things that also has gave me that impulse to start social media, because I didn't intend to become a farmer. It kind of happened accidentally. I was previously in the healthcare industry, so I had just finished my master's of public health in down in LA. So that's where I was actually living until there was a lot of like life circumstances that brought me back to the Central Valley and actually to my family's farm. So again, I wanted to share a lot of things on social media because I wasn't acquainted with the farming industry, the ag industry. I had no idea. I had I had envisioned a career in a hospital or some type of healthcare setting. So coming into ag was definitely something new and different and exciting. So how everything happened, kind of, it just fell into place when I came back to the farm. The farm stand was being built. However, there was no one that was going to intentionally be there. And while I was looking and booking interviews for my next career jump, I decided to help out my family with manning the station at the farm stand, but it had no identity. It really just was a farm stand, and we were gonna put products out there that my parents already grew and then sell to the public. There was no intention of being a farm or vegetable farmer at that point, nor growing a business to what it is now. So again, this is the social media has really been a way for me to showcase what is possible from someone that didn't know anything. I didn't have a designated plot to do my flowers or vegetables, and I had no idea what was well suited for our climate. Had no idea how to install irrigation. When I say I didn't know anything, I didn't know what farming was actually like. Even though my parents had been farmers and I had been involved in the sense of like selling the product, more than that, I was good at being a salesperson. I wasn't good at being a farmer. So everything up to this point, it's all been a learning process, and that is why I still say, like, I want to show my journey because it's something that I'm still learning day in and day out. And that's kind of how everything has evolved, from being very consistent at our farm stand, so being there when there was literally no sales, to and motivating myself to keep growing that Instagram base and Facebook base, because those were the two social media platforms that I first started with, so that people can see what we had on a weekly basis. So that's how I've started, very, very grassroots.
Nice, truly inspiring, Lisa. Thank you for sharing your story with us. Okay, so we have a few questions in the Q&A box. The first one is, can you use CapCut and Canva on mobile and well?
Yeah, I use the iPhone 13, and it does it really well. And then previous to that, like I said, I used my iPhone 10, and then that one did it really well too on mobile. I've never been one to sit down on the computer because I'm always in the field or helping customers at the farm stand, so I'm on my phone a lot of the times when I'm editing, and it works perfectly fine.
Great. And before we go to the next question, I have a question myself.
Yeah.
How time consuming is it to post basically all your daily activities? And can you like give us an example of a day in the life of Lisa Garcia?
So now that I stick more to the pillars of what I was sharing, it takes me a lot longer. I would say I dedicate at least 2 hours, like at night, just editing, and then during the day I'll take my tripod with me, and then I'll place it in a strategic view so that it can catch what I'm actually doing, but it doesn't mean that I'm stopping what I'm doing. So, or sometimes I'll have like friends come over and they'll just start recording me, and they just send me videos, and then I find ways to edit them and cut them appropriately so that it feels like the person watching is following me along. But when I first started, literally I would just point and shoot the camera at me and then post. I didn't think twice about it, because when I had that small following, I think that's why I kind of stated like that was the time when I really had that flexibility to experiment, because the viewing was much less than what it is now. I feel now I do get some comments of like, not criticism per se, but more questioning. So when my viewing was smaller, I didn't have that fear, because I was like, well, it's only like a few people watching, like what's gonna happen, so I didn't have that fear. And as the following has grown, I feel that now I am more I'm more conscious of what I'm communicating. So I really have to push in more of my farming content and the way I'm growing, because before I used to post like a lot of like more outside of farming, outside of just the person that is there, and more of like personal. And then now it's like, okay, I'm stick more to just a certain type of content. Also to protect, you know, my my own personal life, in the sense that I feel that there's now like a boundary, like saying, well, there someone who wants to follow me is following me for the flower content or the ag content, not per se my like personal life. You know what I mean? But there's still things that where I'm involved in the community and I still want to showcase, because it's how it's the opportunities that have come about is through Instagram and Facebook or TikTok. So I still want to kind of keep that in a loop, in a closed loop. But yeah, at the very beginning, going back to the question, it was very simple. It was very simple for me to post, and that is when I posted either like inspirational quotes. I would literally just put like a picture of, let's say, a product that I had. Right now we have citrus, so let's say it was a picture of like citrus, and then the pricing, and then when we would have it in season. That was it. It was super simple. Hmm.
Great. We have another question. Do I have to have a website to market on Instagram?
No, you don't know, because when I started, I didn't have a website. So the way that I mean, also if like the question is to get sales, you don't have to have a website. It helps to have a website and a landing page so that people can, let's say if you wanted to include your address, your hours, an email, a phone number that people can reach you for farm questions, and they could. And then if you're open to that, of course. But for getting sales on Instagram, you don't need a website. You can sell via DM.
Great. We have another question. Do
Mhm.
you use paid ads? And what do you think makes them most effective if you do?
Um, I've used paid ads at the very beginning, again, because I was experimenting. I personally did not know how to use the paid ads, so it wasn't a good outcome for me. Like, it wasn't a good investment. But nonetheless, I feel that if you were to do that, then you really have to know what you're trying to do with those ads, because I did go into that, like, researching, okay, like, how am I going to build this ad? And after I realized again why was I using Instagram, it was to build that bond. I stopped using, but it was going back to really the fundamentals of like my intention with social media. And again, it was very basic. It's like showcasing what I want to people to see that I have in season, and then make a purchase. Like, those were the fundamental ideas that I used, and I kept it at that. And that is what steered me away from using ads, because even though, like I said, even though I want my business to have clientele, obviously, it would, for me, it became more of creating that bond with the customer, because it was the customer that was spreading the word more than I saw the ads working for me. Hopefully that made sense. It's very counterintuitive. It's very, what I've done is very counterintuitive.
It makes a lot of sense. Mouth to mouth, it's still big in our industry.
It's still big, and it's more credible, I feel. So that's why I say, like, all these opportunities, even the fact that I'm sitting here, it's been through social media, but even beyond that, it's because I've taken the time to actually respond to the inquiries that come in. So when I take the time, and even though it does take, the previous question, how long does it take to post? To post, it can be super fast, but then to respond to comments and questions, anything that comes through, that does take a lot of time. I'm not gonna lie about that, because yeah, I do have to stop what I'm doing to respond. Do I do that all the time? No, I allocate times where I'm like, okay, I can answer questions, I can answer comments, I can thank someone, I can get back to them if they're inquiring about like something that is more profound than just like, hey, what are your hours? So in that, yes, but then again, going back to the ad question, the fact that I've taken the time to respond more intentionally has kind of helped me not need the ads. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it
That
makes absolute
okay,
sense.
okay.
Okay, let's jump to the next question. What do your collaborations with other small businesses look like? And is it mostly other farmers?
No, it actually, I don't think it's been other farmers. No, it's mostly like restaurants in the area, several restaurants in the area, other small businesses, another social media content creator agency, and churches, organizations in the area, such as like the Lions Club in Reedley, Boys and Girls Club, the Chamber of Commerce. Yeah, it's been things that, again, had it not been from the social media discovery of the farm stand, they wouldn't have happened. So I guess my big goal here is to really push the social media in a sense that makes sense to you, instead of like so much questioning about it, about utilizing it. We're utilizing it here in a good way to promote positivity, of course, because then, all the collaboration, that's how it's happened. Yeah, but surprisingly, it hasn't been with farming. With other farmers.
Interesting.
Yeah, that is very interesting. Thank you for asking that question.
Okay, our next question is, do you use a TikTok business account or personal? If business, are you able to post organic content through the business login?
I could check, actually. Let me see what I have. I believe. How would I distinguish if it's a business one? You see, I don't even know that. I probably switch back and forth. The reason I don't know that is because I switch back and forth because of the music that it lets you utilize between personal and business. So, yeah, that I need to check to see which one I have right now. But I don't use TikTok Shop. Like, if to get sales on TikTok, I haven't enrolled in TikTok Shop. I kind of lead everyone to my landing page, and then they shop from there, from my own business website. Yeah, but TikTok has been really good at selling products online.
That's great tips.
Mhm.
Okay, we have more questions in the chat box.
Okay,
Does
cool.
Instagram still own any and all uploaded pics?
I would assume they do. I don't know. I'm not familiar with all the legalities, if I'm being completely honest. But that is why I record my own content. And part of the reason I don't like the in-app Instagram editing is because I can still own my own content that I film on my phone. So, and then that is what I utilize in different ways, as opposed to recording on my Instagram app. Again, I don't like the editing on Instagram, but also I do it on my camera also for those reasons that you're asking about, like the ownership of the media. So even though I do post it on Instagram, I still have control of what basically all the recordings that I have. Yeah.
That's very important. Thank you for sharing that, Lisette.
Yeah.
And we have the last question. Can you repeat your Instagram handle?
Oh, Sweet Girl Farms on Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, and also YouTube.
Nice. Everybody go to Instagram and your favorite social media platform and follow Lisette Garcia at Sweet Girl Farms.
Yes, let me know you come from the conference. That'd be really cool to connect. Yeah, I like that.
That's awesome. Oh, we have another question now.
Yes, keep them coming.
Do you upload the same content to Instagram and TikTok, or do you have unique content for each?
That is a very good question. I love that. So one of two things. If I'm very short on time and I want to post on different social media platforms, then I post the same content but not the same caption. So I'll make sure that it's adequate for each audience that I have on each platform. On Facebook, I'll usually do more pictures and a specific type of text. On Facebook, I feel that people are more reading, so I'll do some verbiage there and more explanation. On Instagram, it's more, how would I say, more entertainment, but farming, and combining it with farming value. So then I'll keep the captions really short and a lot of emojis. And then on TikTok, it's my Spanish speaking audience. So I'll translate what I have in mind into Spanish. And again, this is if I don't have time, then I'll just post the same video, but different caption. If I have the time, then yes, I'll do different content for each platform. And again, that's when like recording on your own device as opposed to in the app helps, because then if you have the recording, then you can adapt that to the given platform and then just make it make sense to your audience. Because in each platform, there's a different age demographic, different gender demographic, different location demographic. So that's when I say like learning the science of the social media analytics, that's what I mean. Like you need to know what each community looks like on the back end. So yeah, you're posting, but you also, after a while, when you see what hits, that's when you start to learn, okay, this hit, I need to see who's liking this, who's sharing it, why are they liking, why are they sharing, why are they commenting? And then it starts to get in more, you know, the nitty gritty of stuff so that it can help you in return say, okay, this is how I should focus my social media. And then just balance that out with what you like. So yes, the community response, and then does that align with something that I personally enjoy doing? So that it doesn't feel like it's a draining thing to do, because eventually it comes to a point where it does become a large focus, a large sector of a business. That's why social media managers exist, because it is important. It's the way, it's the radio and the newspaper and the TV ad, but now on your phone and at your convenience.
Oh, that's powerful.
Mm-hmm.
We have a last question now.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
What limitations have you seen evolve from Instagram over the years, and how do you get around them? For instance, I feel like the same people see and like my posts. I definitely feel punished by Instagram when I don't post consistently.
Oh, so okay, for me it's been interesting. And independently of how interesting it feels to me, like addressing the question, I haven't feel limited. I feel that it was because I needed to find what actually worked, and when I had that plateau, that's when I started to find ways that I could be more interesting. Because if it's not hitting and you feel that you're just stuck in a certain place, then it's either, you know what, but I've never felt it's the platform. I've always felt that it was like, okay, I need to step up my game because there's other people that are being successful, and there has to be just a way to modify things that doesn't require me much more energy for me, but does require me to reflect on how good am I conveying my message, how good am I of being a communicator, of putting my thoughts into a verbiage context. Like that's what when I started to realize, okay, Lisette, you really have to be a good communicator so that the audience knows what you're talking about in the first 2 seconds, so that the audience knows who you are in the first 2 seconds. Because that's when I started to feel like, I guess, the challenge of getting the word out. And then again, going back to the very basics, like, why am I doing this? It was mostly to connect with that consumer, well, that clientele that I already had. Yeah, so those, if anything, that. And then what was I saying? I was saying something else, but it'll come back to me.
Thank you, Lisette. Well, that's it for the questions. Thank you all for your questions. We were able to learn so much from your answers, Lisette. Thank you for that. So now, moving to the next slide, we have a final question for all of you. A pop-up poll should appear in your screens in a few seconds, and if not, please answer the chat box. The question is, after this webinar, has your knowledge of how to process, access, produce, prepare, or sell locally and regionally produced ag products has decreased, stay the same, or increase? So please take a few seconds to answer that question. It should be on everybody's screen right now. And at least for me personally, I feel like I've learned so much on how to sell products on Instagram. And I really want to thank Lisette for sharing all of her expertise with all of us. Really, thank you. It has been so valuable. And yeah, thank you for giving us your time and your story.
Oh, of course. Thank you. Thank you, everyone. And if you have any more questions, then yeah, you can reach out to me on Instagram at Sweet Girl Farms. I'm more than happy to help.
Yeah, thank you for that, Lisette.
Yeah.
We have a question in the chat saying we will get recordings of these webinars, so useful. Yeah, we can try to send you for everybody that registered of the event, we can send you a link for the recorded video, and we will also upload this to our YouTube channel. So we will follow up with all of you over email. Thank you so much, and thanks for answering the poll. Your feedback is really appreciated. Okay, I think we can start closing the poll so we can move to the next slide. Again, thanks everyone. Your feedback means a lot and helps us keep doing these resources for you in the future. So we have, wow, an astonishing 86% of the attendees said their knowledge of selling locally products increased. So thank you, Lisette. That's all you. Thanks so much for that. So just a quick plug on CAF Small Farm Tech Hub. We have many more resources available for all of you, for all our small scale farmers here in California. All of these resources are available online, and our team is also available to provide you one-on-one assistance for your farming operation. If you're considering starting social media, e-commerce, building a website, or maybe you need some help with your current system, just feel free to reach out to us. You have our website there, caf.org/tech support. Just send us a message over there and we'll reach back to you. And now going to the next slide. If you enjoyed this webinar, please consider registering for the rest of our webinar series. Our next webinar is going to be next Tuesday on March 5th with Sunny Meadow Flower Farms, and the Tuesday after that on March 12th with Hen and Harvest Farms. If you want to register for these webinars, please go to caf.org/events. And to finalize, well, thank you to all of you again for participating of this webinar. Thank you, Lisette, for being here, for sharing your story. I hope you get a lot of followers from all of our attendees of the webinar today. And yeah, please don't forget to subscribe to CAF's mailing list. And if you want to know more about CAF's Tech Hub, please also subscribe for our Small Farm Tech newsletter. All right, well, thank you, everyone, and happy Tuesday. Bye.